Hello everyone, I am Sanjay Verma. Today we are going to learn about the data types and operators in Java programming. Think of these as the building blocks and the tools we need to create our programs. So let's start. So what are data types? Think of data types like different containers holding different kind of values. For example, integer, character, string, etc. And there are two categories in data types: the primitive data types and the reference data types. So what are primitive data types? They are the basic building blocks and most basic data types in Java, and they store simple values and are not objects. Let me give you some examples. So these are the data types which come under primitive data types: byte, short, int and long. These four basically just store the integer values, and these are their respective sizes. And float and double, they store the decimal values. Float is for smaller decimals and double is for bigger decimal numbers. Character basically stores some symbol. It can be a letter, number, or any special symbol. And Boolean usually just stores true or false. That's why its size is 1 bit. So, what are reference data types? Unlike the primitive data types, reference data types actually store the address to the data in memory instead of directly storing the data. And the reference data types include classes, interfaces, strings, and arrays. And we will discuss about classes and interfaces in the next video because you guys have to know a little about the functions to understand them. And I will show you examples of the strings and arrays now. Okay, so these are examples about string and arrays. A string basically stores words, sentences, etc. Basically anything inside double quotes. And array basically stores multiple values of the same data type inside curly brackets, and they do not have a fixed size like the primitive data types. So their size basically varies according to our inputs. Well, a few key differences between primitive data types and reference data types are: the primitive data types actually store the values inside the variables, while the reference data types store the address of the object we are referring to, of the value we are referring to. The primitive data types, their default values depend on the data type. For example, the default value of an integer variable is 0, while the default value of a Boolean variable is false. While the reference data types, their basic default value is null, null, which means nothing. And the primitive data types have a fixed size. For example, integer is 4 bytes and 32 bits, but the size of reference data types varies. For example, string and arrays, their size depends on basically the input we are giving. So, what are operators? Operators are basically special symbols that perform operations on our data. And there are four categories of operators: arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators, and assignment operators. So, what are arithmetic operators? Arithmetic operators basically do basic mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus. What is modulus? Modulus basically returns us our remainder. For example, when we are dividing 5 by 2, our remainder is 1. So 5 modulus 2, our value becomes 1. And just refer to these examples to get a better understanding. So, coming to relational operators, they basically help us compare values, and the result which is returned is usually either true or false. And these relational operators include less than, greater than, double equal to, not equal to, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. Let me show you guys with an example. Okay, so basically these are all our relational operators, and let's just discuss one example. So
Okay, let this be our code. X is equal to 3 and y is equal to 5. This basically means not equal to. The exclamation mark basically means not. So if x is not equal to y, both are not same. But if they are equal, both are same. And for now, let's keep their values both as 5. And we get the answer both are same. And if we change it, both are not same. We can also further add stuff like if x is more than y, x is greater, and if all these conditions fail, else system.out.println y is greater. But we have to remove this part. Yeah. So okay. So let's see what happens. Oh, it seems there's been a small error. Yeah, we forgot the double quotes. Yeah, now y is greater. But if we increase the value of x, x is greater. If they are both the same value, then both are equal. So this is one of the example where we use relational operators in if conditions.
So, logical operators, they too are similar to relational operators in the sense that the value which is returned at the end is either true or false. We have three logical operators: and, or, and not. So how does AND work? Basically, AND returns true when the conditions on either sides of AND is true, or returns true when at least one condition on either side is true, and not, it basically reverses our value. For example, Boolean A is equal to true, not A is equal to false. Basically, the value is reversed. Let's discuss with an example.
Okay, now let's discuss a few examples about relational operators. Let's start with the exclamation mark, which basically reverses our value. For example, Boolean A is equal to false, not A should return true. Yeah, true. That's good. And if this is true, then our output should be false. Yeah, false. That's correct. And now let's see another code. Yeah, this one. So let's come from the start. X is equal to 3 and y is equal to 5. If x is more than 0 and y is more than 0, so basically both this condition and this condition should be true for this whole condition to return a true. And since we have x and y both more than 0, this condition will get executed here. Yeah, so both are positive. And if this condition fails, that is, if for example y value is minus 5, then since this one fails, we'll come to this condition. So if x is more than 0 or y is more than 0, so if either one of these both two conditions is true, then this will get executed. This part will get executed. So here we will get one of the values is positive. And if both the values are negative, then which means this will not be executed and this will also not be executed, and we will come to this one. Since both these failed, this will get automatically executed. None are positive. Yeah, none are positive. So these are the examples with all these operators. These are pretty simple and these are basically always used for if conditions.
So finally coming to assignment operators. So what does the name mean? Assignment operators, basically operators for assigning. Simple. And what operator do we use for assigning data to variables? Equal to. So assignment operators are basically equal to and its variations. What are its variations? That too is pretty simple. For example, x plus is equal to 5. This basically means x is equal to x plus 5. It is pretty simple, but the statement is smaller, and that's the reason we use for. You can also refer to this picture for better understanding. So now that we know what operators are, let me tell you and the difference between primitive data types and reference data types. So primitive data types support operations with all these predefined operators that we have just discussed, but reference data types require functions to manipulate their data. And that's it. Today we learned about different types of data containers called data types and special symbols that help us manipulate our data called operators. And I hope you found this explanation easy to understand. I am just making these videos as a fun side project to improve my explaining skills. And so if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.